Hey everyone, it's Coach Craig here from Endurance Swimming. Its website's liquidtri.com, liquidtri.com. Here to give a quick intro. We had a few technical difficulties at the beginning of the call, I wanted to give our main speaker a quick intro, which was missed, and then just the first minute or so of his talk. So the main content is all there. We just missed the first 2 or 3 minutes, so you're not going to miss much. But basically, our guest today was Coach Bryan. He is from theswimmechanic.com, and he's also the founder of One with the Ocean. It's an open water group. I met him about a year ago, but I've been following him on Instagram. We've been contacting here and there, or had some back and forth conversations, and then I finally got a chance to swim with his group. Basically, every time I'm in California, I swim with one of his groups. So it's a great group if you're in the area. His One with the Ocean is expanding. I believe they have 2,700 swimmers at this point. They're the largest open water group in the world. They have 11 locations with a bunch more opening up this year. The website for that is onewiththeocean.org, so I definitely recommend checking it out. Their mission is all about conservation of the ocean and water, public waterways, the community around the swimming in open water, cooperation and training. So it's a really cool mission. They do beach cleanups for like all their open water swims. So I highly recommend checking them out. It's onewiththeocean.org, and also follow them on Instagram. I believe they're at OWO swims, and then Brian's personal account is at the Swim Mechanic on Instagram as well, and his website's theswimmechanic.com. So I highly recommend checking it out. Basically, we're going to pick up the video partway through like the first minute or two. So all Brian was going through was the first topic was basically how to get back into open water swimming safely after a long hiatus, because given the conditions and the times we live in, a lot of us on the East Coast have not been able to get in the water at all because the ocean is 45 degrees Fahrenheit and all our pools are closed. So he was in the middle of talking about making sure you have your checklist that you run through, starting with equipment, making sure your wetsuit is in good working order after it's been sitting in your garage for a while or wherever you put it, to dip it in the water first, get it wet. That's before you put it on, because that's going to prevent any cracking if the wetsuit is a little dried out. And then we're going to pick it up in a second when he is talking about goggles, having multiple pairs of goggles that fit, but different tints of them for different conditions. So that's where we're going to launch into the video. I hope you enjoy it and find it helpful, and I will talk to you at the end of the video to get your thoughts. So thanks for joining in. For those who came to the live webinar, I hope you had a great time, and for those who are viewing for the first time now, I hope you really enjoy it. We plan here at Endurance Swimming to make this a series with a few other coaches, and I believe Coach Bryan's going to come back for a few more as well. So definitely check back to our YouTube channel and our website as well. And in the description of this video, I'm also going to put links to all of Brian's information, theswimmechanic.com, onewiththeocean.org, and his Instagram and Facebook accounts. So with that, let's jump into the video. Thanks for coming.
Have your gear dialed. This should not be a new testing laboratory for you to go out there and try new gear. Your first swim and swims back into the ocean, you should be wearing your tried and true wetsuit you're used to, your goggles that you've been wearing in the pool, the ones that you love, you know fit well, there's no leaking. So go through your check sheet, your literal check sheet of your gear. Make sure you have all those things checked off. Test them out before you get out there. Little room for error in that sense. As far as goggles go, this is one of the easiest fixes. You want to have 2 to say 4 pairs of goggles. Same pair of goggles, different tints. So make sure that the fit is the first most important piece to think about. So goggles, get your clear or maybe like a smoke pair, a really light tint or clear. That's your heavy fog day, your dark day, your almost stormy day, and maybe so you can wear in the pool as well. So you have your clear-ish pair. Then you want a second pair, a little less important, a yellow, blue, or orange tint. Those can be really effective to discern certain colored buoys. I won't get into that too much, but those are good for transitional lighting. A third pair is your heavy mirrored pair. And then your fourth optional pair is kind of in between, like a lighter mirrored that might be like a maroon color. So have your arsenal of goggles ready to go. So then, day of, you're out there, you've got the pair for the conditions at hand. So again, your gear check sheet in place. For me, I get my wetsuit out and I'll soak it before I take this out there. If it's been a couple of months of wearing this particular suit, I'll soak it. Let it breathe like a sponge, let it kind of warm up a little bit. Otherwise, that stiffness from the suit from being dry for so long can produce some cracking. Not only that, it's going to feel really rigid when you get out there. So soak the suit, stretch it out a little bit, get it like malleable before you get out there on your practice day. That's kind of your gear check sheet. Go through each of those things. If you wear booties and glove and skull cap, same testing, same everything ready to go. So you have all your gear in place. Nothing's different. So my next piece of advice, limit the distractions. There's so many things that can get in the way of you out there, especially on this day one back, or day one if it is your day one in the open water, or this particular body of water. So you want to go into this with a job. You want your mind to have something to focus on that's productive, that's positive, that's consuming up here, to block out all the other noise potentially going on. So you want to limit the distractions. You want mental focuses in your head. So for me, I always have mechanical focuses. I have a check sheet in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say. Number 1 is my head position. Number 2 is my breath. Number 3 is this. Number 4 is this. So you want to have that check sheet in your head. So when you go out there, you have those bullet points to go through. So first minute, focus on bullet point 1. Put to the side. Second minute, focus on bullet point 2. Put to the side. And cycle through that. This is advice not even just for your first swim back, but for any swim for that matter. Because mental stuff can get in the way on any day of the week or of the year for that matter. So keep yourself focused with your job. So before you get there, maybe on pen and paper on your phone, make that list. Like, what are the things right now you're really trying to think about and work on? We all have those, but they're always changing. So make your check sheet, keep that in your head when you get to the beach. Number 3 here with getting back into the water, this acclimation period, would be incrementally building the time or the distance you're swimming. So if you're training for Ironman and you have a race, let's say in 4 months, 3 months, that 2.4 miles, that 40 whatever yards, 4,000 yards-ish, is pretty long. Does that mean on day 1 you have to get anywhere near that goal? So day 1 might be more important to think about it as a gaining of comfort and confidence, not so much this goal-oriented piece of I'm trying to hit this Strava point or this on my watch. That I would say would take a lower priority for this day 1, this week 1, couple weeks, whatever it might be. So give yourself a break. Go into this with ease and feeling confident that you know you can do this feeling good. More so than feeling fast or proving something, go into it feeling good. This is an experiential thing that should be rewarding to you. It should not be stressful. And if it's stressful, rethink why you're doing it. It's probably not for the right reasons. Sorry. So, incremental build here. So first swim back should be pretty mellow. And if that means 15 minutes, great. If that means 30 minutes, 5 minutes, that's less important. But go into it knowing what your capacity is. If you've been out of the water for 3 months, even out of the pool for 3 months, I would go into this one free form, no expectations. Say, hey, I just want to get in the water. I want to focus on my breath. And I just want to have that experience and have fun and get out and have some coffee afterwards with a couple friends. That's my approach every swim of the year. So I hope some of you guys can relate to that. So it's very important to do that. And to have your training element in there as well. But at first, it should be a very easy transition back to this. Swim on different days. Swim with different groups. Swim at different locations. That's an overlooked piece. So it's easy, let's say, to get back into the water and have a very rigid confine to what you think your training is going to be. The problem with that is that you put yourself in a position to potentially, let's say, have surprise or having disappointment once you have a day that's different than what you just had last time. So you're creating expectations in your head of what you want it to be. But you can't control what the ocean's going to be doing, or what the lake's going to be doing. So I recommend diversifying. Each swim, switch up one of those elements. Who you're training with, where you're training, or the time or the conditions. So don't only go when it's fair weather, literal fair weather, and don't only go at your spot right in your backyard. Try to switch it up. That's very valuable and easy to overlook. It's convenient to go to the same spot and have the same training partners. Switch it up. So getting back in, it takes some time. The cold is probably the next piece to really think about here. For you guys, I don't know what the temps are there. I see Craig doing these crazy swims. I don't recommend. It's not a good idea, guys.
It was 49 this morning, just so you all know. It's cold.
Don't do that. And being serious, I mean, don't do that. But being serious, if that's your goal to do that, do that. Most of us, that's not our goal. And if it is your goal, you might also want to think about why that's your goal. So that's weird. So as far as getting back in, you guys have cold water right now. Our water here is 68, 69. We're super spoiled. We're super soft here. This is applicable to you guys. Think about the temps. Okay, so what happens typically to you when you get cold water? And I could probably guess a lot of those things not knowing any of you guys, but let's try to eliminate those potential things from happening. So the best thing to think about, the best thing to focus on singularly to acclimate to cold water in the moment is your breath. Your breath is all you own. Your breath is the singular thing that allows you to do anything, especially cold water swimming. So for me, my breath's my first focus. Right when I park at the beach, the lake, the ocean, I'm getting into my breath. I'm going internal, listening to that, I'm feeling that. And for me, I have this rhythm to my breath. So I'm actually saying inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So I'm creating that neuromuscular connection. All I'm thinking about is the breath. I'm feeling the breath at the same time. And check it out. When you do that, nothing else can be coming into your brain. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty simple as well. So breath is your first focus always, especially when in the cold water for, let's say, the first time in a while. So you get to the beach, you should be breath focused. No holding the breath, no tension up here in the chest or in the traps. You should be relaxed. You should try and mimic your normal breathing you do at 99.9% of the time. When your toes hit that water, you know you're going to tense up. So maybe removing the word cold from your vocabulary could be helpful. Definitely helpful for me, because that's a really easy word to say and you become a victim. You're like, oh, poor me, I'm so cold. And you know what? You're the one electively doing this. So don't punish yourself. Get rid of that word. Don't think cold. This is an opportunity. I just made that up. But this is an opportunity to experience the cold together, all right? So thinking about this, we get there. We might have some nerves because it's the first time in a while. We may have nerves because there's dynamic conditions out there. What's the first thing you do? Go to your breath. And when you do that, everything else gets blocked out. If you can control your breath, your performance ceiling is here. If you're holding your breath, if you're tense in the breath, shallow in the breath, your performance ceiling, of course, drops. So give yourself a fighting chance and put yourself in a relaxed position, breath first. Focus on the breath. Focus on the breath. Okay, so let me think what else here. So that's acclimation right there. When we get in the water, the next process is actually getting in the water. I would say take this slowly. Going too fast to get into the water rarely pays off very well. Unless you're at the very, very tippy end of the elite spectrum, it probably will not pay off well for you. It might cause a lot of stress, in fact. So if your thought process is, okay, I'm going to dart into the ocean so that I can get my heart rate up and get warmed up, get going. Not going to fare very well most of the time. Your heart rate's going to spike, and you're going to be super shallow chest breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And once you're in that position and you can't stand in the water, it's really tough to reverse that and get back to a neutral foundational point. So you want to think about how you approach the water with ease, with purpose. We've got at least the breath focus now. And you want to do this in a calm fashion. So I don't know where you guys swim, if there's buoys out there, but even better if there are. There's a bit of a course out there, some buoys. Use that as your visual reference points of, okay, once I get to the first buoy, I can quickly assess in real time, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. I can start to tighten, ratchet up a little bit. I can go a little bit harder, a a little bit faster. Or you get to that first buoy, that first landmark, and you realize, okay, I'm still settling in. I'm just going to maintain right now. Point is, you want to have something to look forward to out there that you know, okay, here's my point to assess how I'm doing and make any tweaks necessary. So again, this is your swim. This is for you. No one else cares you're doing this. No one else even knows you're probably doing this. That's beyond the point. But you want to make sure you slowly get into this. Worst thing you can do is go out there way too hard, get blow up, and the rest of the swim you're just trying to recover or survive and just be out there and finish. You want to finish strong. No one's winning any sort of prize for winning a warm-up. And you guys know those people in the pool who go really hard in the warm-up and they taper out or they leave early. Don't be those people. That's not very effective. So make sure you can execute on your entire plan. So, Craig, I'm going to pull you in here. What are we thinking here? Give me some of your tips on acclimation. That's my initial thought. We could probably go way too deep into this, but Craig, do you have any good tips for you in the cold water right now?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think one thing you said that really is important, especially around in New England at this time of year, and I tell my athletes, but a lot of people on Instagram, I get messages, oh, what should I be doing? And I always, like, especially this year more than others with all of the COVID stuff going on, all the triathletes are super antsy to get in, their pools are closed, so they're taking risks that I always say, like, hey, maybe don't do this if you can wait, but if you really can't wait, one of the big things I've always said to them and my own athletes is if you're going to venture into the water, you need to throw all goals away. Having like a time goal is the worst thing. So saying, oh, I want to swim for 30 minutes or having a distance goal, I want to swim for 2,000 yards. Those are what are going to get you hurt in the end because all of you are triathletes or water swimmers. You're all type A. We know you're tough people. You want to achieve what you set your mind to. Unfortunately, hypothermia does not care. So having those goals are great, except that when you push for them and you're not prepared, you end up getting really, really hurt. So that's usually my number one is go slow, take your time. If your first session is a minute, but it's 45-degree water, that's fine because probably you've never been in 45-degree water. So you have to really listen to your body. More often than not, and my dad can attest to this because he's usually spotting for me, I'll go in, like, I've been going in this winter at like 35, 36 degrees. If I'm not going in 100%, I'll only be in for a minute. Like, I'll have other days where I'm in for 10 minutes, but for whatever reason, that day doesn't feel right. My breathing's off. Something doesn't feel right. So in my head, of course, I want to stay in as long as possible, but I also know that's kind of how you die. So it's really important to kind of throw those types of goals aside and focus more on the mindfulness, focus more on what your body is telling you. So my number one is very similar where it's take your time going in. Like if it's just standing with your feet in the water, that's enough to get started. Listen to your body. And then every session you can kind of push it a little bit more, but it does take time to get that type of like cold water acclimation. Around here right now it's 49 degrees, so we're kind of teetering on the edge. If we throw all the neoprene in, we'll probably be okay. But even then, it's still cold. If you don't go in slow, you can have that like breath sucked out of you or the wind knocked out of you, and that's really the dangerous part about this around here is, like Brian said, if you run in and you dive in, if you have that shock response, the first thing your body does is like, and if your face is in the water when you do that, you take in a mouthful of freezing cold water. So then you basically essentially start kind of drowning. So it's really important to go in, get it to waist deep, splash some water in your face, see how you feel, go down to your shoulders, see how you feel. If you're feeling good, kind of bob up and down, get the face wet a little bit. And only then, when you feel comfortable, should you start swimming. And even when you start swimming, you're probably going to have the ice cream headache, even with the neoprene cap on. Personally, like I've had it a few times where I have to swim the first 2 minutes with my head out of the water the whole time. Or for the first 2 minutes, I'm putting my head down, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up. And eventually, your body will start to adapt to the water temperature and you start to acclimate to it. In that swim where the headache goes away, you start feeling better. If you're in the neoprene, you're going to start warming up to a point that you're like, oh, I can swim pretty well, but you also have to know the signs of hypothermia. And I think around around here, that's the most important. If you are not aware of the signs, that's just very dangerous. Like shivering the water means get out immediately. If you get like this little claw thing and you can't control your hand, which happens very often, if you're an experienced swimmer, maybe you push it a few more minutes. But for most, if this happens, you get out. If you are having really slow thinking, you need to get out fast. So those are some of the things you have to think about, and really be aware of what your body is doing. If your stroke rate starts to slow, it's like, okay, maybe I need to get out in the next minute or two, but it's not an emergency. Shivering in the water is a really, really bad thing. And then the claw, or it's not the claw that's bad, it's the fact that if you are trying to do this, and this is all that happens, you're in a stage of hypothermia where you need to get out, you need to get all the wetsuits off, you need to get into dry clothes right away. So knowing those signs are essential as well. And along with that, like Brian was talking about having swell in California, we don't have huge swell, which is nice, but if you're swimming in 49 or 50 degrees and you're not comfortable with it, and then you throw a day where there's a storm coming in, so you have 2 to 3 foot waves, which aren't huge, but if you aren't used to the cold and then you get hit with one of those waves and you take in water, you're now in a really, really dangerous place. So it's really important, if you don't feel comfortable with the conditions, don't go in. Like, it doesn't matter if you went with friends, don't let peer pressure get the best of you. It's really important to know your personal limitations before getting in. And then once you feel comfortable, you take your time, you do it slow. I mean, you're doing it, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what, your friends say, or if you post on Facebook, oh, well, you're only in for a minute. It's like, well, you were in for a minute, and they weren't in at all. So, you can't really get caught up in that Strava, Facebook, Instagram world when it comes to colder water swimming. So those are some of the things that I generally tell my athletes and people on Instagram who are just curious. I do a lot of posting of my cold water stuff to be more informative. Like, it's not like I'm running out on a polar plunge. I've been going in all the whole fall through the winter, and now coming out of the winter, going into spring and summer. So it's taken months and months and months of getting used to it. It wasn't, oh, I'm just going to get in my first day and stay in 40-degree water for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. The first day I think I went, I think I was in for 2 minutes. So it's really just listen to your body and be smart at the end of the day. If you don't feel right, just call it a day and get out. It's better to live to swim the next day than to not make it out of the water because you let your ego or pride get in the way. So
yeah, hey Craig, that's a good point you made. I think a lot of endurance athletes get really set on this idea that it's all mental endurance sports, which I think there is a lot of truth to that for land-based endurance sports. When we're talking about cold water endurance and cold water acclimation, it is not just mental. There's a significant physiological response that has to be acclimated over time. So hearing you say that means a lot, because you do that for 5, 6, too many hours. So yes, take your time with this. I think what would be fun next, Craig, if you're okay with this, I'd love to unpack a couple of my biggest takeaways for open water success, like maybe 1 or 2 elements that will change the game for you. Is that cool, Craig?
Yeah, let's do it.
And my number 1, does anyone have a good guess? Can we do like a guess thing on here? How does this work? Can anyone type anything? What is it? What is the number 1 most important piece of open water swimming success? Anyone have a good guess? Write to Craig right now.
You can write it in the chat. You can send it to everyone in the chat. So, and if you don't want to send it to everyone, you can send it to me, and I will throw it out there. If you don't want to be embarrassed.
What is the number 1 most important open water skill for success? I want to see what people say. I can't see. Can you read them to me, Craig?
I'm not getting anything. Breathing is number 1. Preparation.
Preparation, consistency. Yeah. I'm seeing it now. Thank you. Those are all very good.
I think I know the answer, so I'm not going to throw it out there.
Yeah, cold tub was number 1. Craig said cold tub.
No, that wasn't me. That's someone else with who's taking my name. I'm going to guess that was Greg, though.
That's awesome. Knowing your plan, buddy. Okay, these are all really good. Okay, well, my number 1 skill for the open water is sighting. Sighting is your line of sight. Thank you, Michael. Sighting, I say, is the most important piece, even actually above the breath. I'm a huge breath guy. I say, focus on your breath, focus on your breath. Sighting is because that is your navigation. And I think sighting has the most room for error, and also the biggest takeaway if done properly. I would say I'm a pretty good swimmer, but I end up being a decently strong swimmer in a group because of my sighting. So if I'm the same speed as somebody else, I can be faster than them because my line is always more direct than theirs. That's just an example of me, but it's the same for anybody. So sighting, I would say, is the most common error in the open water, poor sighting. So what happens? People end up sighting with a really high head position. They lift their head up, they're breathing up front, and in that position, their head's high, hips and legs drop, right? So posturally, you're causing extra drag, you're breaking momentum, you're breaking tempo, probably breaking your breathing pattern as well. A whole slew of effects there. The cause and effects are pretty significant. So because they feel that, you feel that it's slowing you down, you then also, double whammy, you sight less often. You don't sight often enough. So you sight too high and too infrequently. Like the two worst things right there. So I want you to sight frequently and with a low profile. And I'll dive into that a little deeper here as well. So the three things to think about. Okay, how often, profile of the head, and what's the timing of it? The timing is maybe one of the more overlooked aspects. Timing of freestyle in general is highly, highly technical and really the bread and butter of how it all works properly together. Yet, very few people talk about this. The timing of your stroke eliminates any sort of hitches, dead spots, loss of momentum, loss of propulsion for that matter, power. And a lot of it does derive from the timing of your breath / timing of your sighting. They kind of are one and the same, and I'll explain why. So frequency, you want to sight often. You want to sight every 2 to 4 stroke cycles. 4 for me is, whoa, not often enough. I'm every 2 to 3, always. So every 2 to 4. And it's variable based off the conditions. So on a day when it's glassy, which I'm sure you guys have some of those days when it's super glassy and smooth, go to every 3 or 4. On a day when there's a surface chop from some wind for you guys, or a bit of swell, or if you have a swimmer in front of you and the splash off their kick is significant to block your visibility, you want to sight more frequently, every 2. Every 2 I like, there's a lot of visibility to it, and I'll show you that in a minute. So every 2 to 4, sight often. So maybe one more question here. Type in how often you normally sight. How many stroke cycles do you go normally? 4, 5, 6, every 2. Go ahead and type your answer right now. 6, thank you for your honesty. 6, 10, 10-ish. Whew. Okay, this is good. I'm glad I chose this topic. 4 to 6, that's pretty average, guys. Every 6 or so is pretty average. And the problem with that, if 1 stroke is 1 second, a stroke cycle is 2 strokes, 2 seconds. So you're going every 6 stroke cycles, that's 12 seconds. In 12 seconds, you have a lot of time to get off course, which is extra distance, extra time, extra energy, right? So think about this. If you can stay on course, you can cut like 15% down of what your output is. You don't have to use so much energy to get to the same point. So every 2 to 4 is what we're talking about here, frequency-wise.
Brian, I'm just going to chime in.
Yeah.
So a lot of my swimmers say 6 to 8 because I don't do stroke cycles. I do strokes. So it's like, So every 6 to 10 is actually 3 stroke cycles. So it's, 3 stroke cycles versus 12 strokes like you're talking. So just pointing it out because that's something I've always said. I like to count each stroke versus stroke cycles.
Stroke cycle, yeah. Fair. Okay, good to know. I still believe there's room for improvement here. And I'm saying that not to step on Craig's toes, but I imagine many of you guys, you have different strokes in the open water than what you execute in the pool. And it's very common. So you practice one thing in the pool, and then in the open water, you do things very differently. Where you're saying, okay, well, in the pool I breathe every 3 to 4 strokes. Oh, but in the open water, I breathe every 2 because I need more oxygen. And I kind of have to think, like, well, why do you think your body's asking for more oxygen in the open water? So point being, oftentimes people have different mechanics in the pool and the open water. So open water, yes, sighting frequently is the name of the game, 2 to 4. As far as the timing goes, you want to sync this up synonymously with the breath. So the sight should only happen during the exhale. So sighting is synonymous with the exhale, meaning you should never be clearing your mouth above the waterline, period. At any point, your mouth should not be above waterline because you're on the exhale. You should be on the exhale. So I'll demonstrate here. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I'm going to read every 2 times. Okay? So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So what's happening? So I'm on the left side of breather here. Here's my left arm. My right arm is out during my inhale, fully extended, right? Left arm is recovering forward. And at this point, my hand and head should be connected. Movements are synchronous here. So I'm inhaling, I'm recovering forward. I'm going to return my face to the water and shoot forward with my hand. Boom, right there at the same time. So it's not this kind of movement where your head panoramically swings over top of the water and looks forward. You still return your face down briefly and shoot it forward with the extension of the arm, so that you do not disrupt your tempo. Tempo is the name of the game in the open water. So you want to protect your breath, which is your tempo. Inhale, exhale, 1, 2. It should be very consistent like a metronome. So sighting should not disrupt that pattern or that timing. Late timing of the inhale ends up being late timing of the exhale, or vice versa, which makes a very lopsided stroke, and a lopsided distribution of power as well, which can be a lopsided course. If you're pulling harder on one side, you'll be going to that side, always, unless you're correcting somehow, which also is an inefficiency in itself. So the timing should be with the exhale. One more time here. So inhale's right here, coming forward, boom, exhale right there. So the opposite side arm, the same side arm as your breathing side, is the supportive arm during the sight. So for me, I think about, okay, I'm going to actually point the direction I'm going. So that's kind of like my laser beam to point where I'm going. So I'm looking over that hand almost like a sight on a gun. Boom. So I'm looking at this right here. That's my line. So these guys dictate your line, and they kind of set your line for where you're going. If you have a big crossover, you're probably going to veer that way as well. Does that make sense? Getting a little off there, but it's relevant. So the timing is important. So practice every 2 just to get the rhythm. Inhale, exhale, sight. Inhale, exhale, sight. It's very rhythmic. And once you've mastered that, go to every 3 or 4 if the conditions allow. But only if they allow. Again, for me, more often than not, I'm going every 2. It's become part of my stroke. I have a very good orientation. I say sighting is the most important piece because this one gives you the mental confidence of knowing where you are. Spatial awareness in the open water is insanely difficult. Just all water. It all looks very similar. Where on land, we have a million things to use as reference points to know where we are, where we're navigating to. In the open water, you might have like 3, maybe 4 things. So it's your job to think about those things, which I'll get to in a second. So profile, head, low profile. On a day when it's glassy, you should be clearing right around the goggle line. In a perfect world, I probably suppose myself doing this, I was probably acting. It probably wasn't exactly what I was doing, but I was doing like half the goggle in, half the goggle below. That's tough to achieve. Try to split right below the goggle line, right on the nose. And until it's really choppy, you might be a little below the nose. But again, never clear in the mouth. You never want to change the breathing pattern for the sight. Always during the exhale. Okay? So navigation. Now we know how to sight. But to know how to really sight well, we want to have things to be looking for. And that's up to you. And keep these to yourself on practice or race day. Don't just give away all of your gold here. This is you doing your course recon. I imagine for a trail race, you'll probably do some amount of recon to understand the terrain, what to expect at this mile. Okay, here there's this, I'll be looking for this certain landmark. Same thing for the open water. So you get to your race spot, get to your practice spot, and you want to look for things that differentiate from the rest of the area. So if you are in a body of water with land behind it, let's say, which would be fairly common, look for the cell phone tower, look for the tall oak tree, look for something that's tall, that doesn't take a very high glance to find. So it should be easier to see even than the buoy itself. So you want to find these tall, fixed landmarks relative to the buoys. So if your course is like an L, like so, you want something near this buoy, behind it perhaps, would be really nice, or even off-center is fine, knowing, okay, it's a little bit off-center from the buoy. And you want something on this part of the course as well. So each turn of the course, each perspective change, you want to have a reference point. This is the prepared part of you're either prepared or unprepared. This is how you prepare. You have this mental dress rehearsal in your head of knowing what to look for. So how do you get this? I mean, because the first part is easy. The first buoy, you've got the cell phone tower, great. But what about the rest of the course? That's out in the water. How could you possibly know how to do that? This requires you to get in the water and do that. So the day before a race, do that. If it's the morning of the race, please do that. They allow you to warm up especially. So swim to the first buoy, pretend you're going to make that turn, and now see what the next perspective is and pick the next landmark. That's really the only way to do it. And in the finish of the swim, know what you'll see there at the finish. Point being, have this game plan in your head so that you can easily sight to see what's ahead. Now, as far as that goes, there are many times you'll go to sight, and you'll see splash, or you just won't quite see your landmark. For us in California, it's always swell. Swell covers up your visibility so easily. It's the perfectly wrong timing, and all you see is a face of a wave, or a face of swell, this up and down motion. So instead of keeping your head up and doing this Tarzan water polo style thing, don't hesitate, go through the stroke cycle, and then sight the following stroke. All you're trying to get is a quick snapshot of that thing, of whatever it is you decided is your reference point. Not a perfectly painted picture where everything is detailed, you know exactly what's happening, just a quick snapshot. So if and when you sight but do not get the visibility, don't hesitate, go through the stroke cycle at the same tempo, follow with the sighted next exhale. So that is my best piece of advice on how to level up in the open water is master sighting. And I guarantee most of you guys have not mastered sighting yet. Even my guys here, we still are working on this constantly. All levels, but this takes a lot of practice in different conditions. So sight often and sight low profile. Craig, what should we talk about next? I feel like we could do this for way too long, so I don't want to bore you guys too much.
Yeah, so I don't know if other people have this question, but I know personally I think like you were saying, waves, timing is important. So a lot of the races around here happen at lakes where the landmarks are all, like, it's just trees. Everything is trees. So what's your recommendation when you get to, like, for example, a lot of people around here know the Pumpkin Man race. It's up in South Berwick, Maine. It's a great race, but the entire swim is this lake. It's not huge. It's just surrounded by trees. So there's no differentiating landmark. So in a course like that, what would be your, like, number one tip on what to sight to in that case?
Yeah, that definitely happens. And even, so one of our groups from Redondo Beach, when you're heading south, which we would, of course, do several times in a swim, you're looking at this big peninsula, this big hill, and it's all trees. And even with that, even when it's all trees, there's going to be one tree that sticks up differently, sticks up a little bit taller. Find that tree, find that thing. I guarantee it's there. It might be a stretch, you have to really look for it, but try to find that. And in the worst case, if you really can't find something, rely on your sighting towards a buoy. And trust that, okay, I'm sighting every 2-3 stroke cycles, I'm going to be staying pretty much on course pretty well. So there are definitely rare times when you cannot see a really distinct something. I bet if you look hard enough, you'll find a reference point of some sort. So I'm sorry I didn't quite answer your question, Craig, but
that's fine.
Look for it. Look harder.
Look harder, yeah. No, I think that's great. I think we should open it up to some questions. If people have questions, you can shoot them to me, and we will have Bryan answer them. While you are getting me your questions, I did want to I wanted to announce that with Bryan, that Endurance Swimming has partnered with One with the Ocean. So we will be the first site of One with the Ocean Boston. So our Saturday swims and probably our Wednesday morning swims for open water will be partnered with One with the Ocean. And one of the reasons that I was really excited about doing this is one of the things that Bryan has done with all his groups is all these swims start with a beach cleanup. And given the state of our oceans, I think this is a really important thing for us to be doing, and where we are lucky enough to use these beaches. I think it is the least we can do to keep them clean. So, Brian, if you want to kind of jump in a little bit and explain a little bit of how the partnership works, that would be great. And I think we have a bunch of questions as well.
Yeah, I guess the good news is there's kind of a feel good for everybody. As a nonprofit, that means that everything you pay to the group, if you choose to pay to the group, is a donation. That money is primarily going towards building these programs around the world. So we're launching some international programs this year. The foundation, as I mentioned before, really is to inspire love for the ocean. But in doing that, you want to then give back. So the beach cleanups that we do every week around the world. And then we're launching a program called Playing the Waves. And we're offering free lessons to underserved communities, wherever the city might be. And those are 1-to-1 ratio. You guys volunteer, and you literally hold a hand of someone who's never been in the ocean before, never been in a lake before. That's where like the magic happens. That's the most rewarding piece, is for you guys to give back and help others. So you can do your own training, and you guys will have the same level, if not better, training. I'll be there to coach some sessions as well as we kick off the sessions in June. But not much is changing on the Craig front. You guys are able to be part of a big organization now that is giving back to people around the world and creating community via the ocean. So I'm stoked. There's plenty we can talk on with that. I see a lot of questions coming in. And I already saw one, Craig. Can I go and hop on one?
Yeah, go. Yeah, by all means, go for it.
I saw someone mention he's not once mentioned kicking. I didn't say who wrote that, but
it's Greg. He's banned from questions from now on.
I have not once mentioned kicking, and I'm not sure there's an inside joke there between you and Craig. I'm going to go ahead and dive into kicking. So kicking in the open water, kicking for open water swimming, for a triathlon, say, in particular, is a secondary role. Kicking is important, necessary, but it is not what powers you through the water. Kicking literally is 10-15% of your total propulsion in the water, meaning 85% are these guys right here. But without proper kicking, it can be your biggest limiter as well. The thing that creates the most drag, that slows you down, tires you out. So kicking has 3 main functions. To create balance or counterbalance as you rotate side to side, one leg's down, one's up, helps you stay balanced in your rotation. Lift. The drive the leg down is a lift force that keeps your back end up, so it keeps you level in the water, reducing drag. And the third piece is T, so BLT. Third piece is tempo. You should have a consistent kick tempo that matches with your arms. So saying that you're going to save your legs for the rest of the race is false, and it could not be farther from the truth. In fact, all the small stabilizer muscles on the leg, predominantly around the hip flexors and knees, you should be firing those and warming those up so you can get to your bike and run feeling warmed up. But if you left your legs stationary, stagnant rather, dragging behind the whole time, you have a hell of a time getting out of the water and getting ready to kick. Kick your legs on the bike. So saving your legs for the rest of the race does not work that way. You want to be kicking it, but it's not for power. About 15-ish% tops comes from the kick. So think steady, relaxed, smooth kick. I teach a 6-beat kick most often. 2 beats a real thing, 4 beats a real thing. Let Craig help you find what works best for you and for your stroke. 2-beat generally does not work for most of you guys. Unless you are a, say, small person, they're really high turnover, the 2-beat will not be frequent enough to keep you lifted, lengthened, and good body posture. Unless you have a crazy strong swim background, and again, you're probably like on the smaller side. That could work pretty well for you. Next question. How do I look at this, Greg?
If you go into the group chat, I'll just posted them there. Someone asked about less expensive wetsuits.
Okay.
Well, you don't need to wear one. There's one. That's really cheap.
Again, don't train the way Craig trains. It makes no sense. It's crazy. You do want to wear a wetsuit in the winter. Yeah. It's smart. It's healthy. I agree. No wetsuit, Liz says. I do love no wetsuit. I'm obviously joking. But as far as less expensive wetsuit goes, I think the better way to approach that is to find the fit that works for you. Not necessarily the brand, the fit. And then if that brand has one on the lower, most brands have like a low, mid, high, like ultra premium level suit. Just go on the low end of that suit. Expect it to last 2-3 years probably. You can certainly find a suit for $200 or a little bit less that will serve you well. We work with Blue 70. I'm not saying they're the best or the worst. There's really good suits from every single brand. So find the one that fits you best first, and then find maybe their entry-level suit. It'll probably work pretty well for you.
And just to jump in briefly on the wetsuit front, a lot of the times the more expensive one have that I found have better neoprene or a less restricted neoprene around the shoulders. So if you don't come from like a huge swim background, I don't think you're gonna feel the benefit or the restriction on the cheaper models. Additionally, going with sleeveless will also alleviate some of that. So if you're looking to save money and you're okay with being a little cold, then I would go like the cheaper sleeveless ones. Otherwise, if you don't have like a super long stroke with lots of range of motion, then you can go with, like what Brian's saying, the lower end brands and not really see too much of an impact there. It's more if you are like an Olympic swimmer and you go with a cheaper brand, you're going to feel it in the shoulders a lot more just because you need a lot more mobility in the shoulder region for your stroke.
Yeah. I saw a question that was asking, what did it say here, for drills for sighting through the open water. There are certainly drills. Maybe the most simple, dumbed-down way to inspire this, I would recommend train the way you're going to swim in the open water. So I would incorporate sighting into your main sets. It's really important, not just in a drill, but put sighting into some of your main sets. That way, that is your open water freestyle for the open water. Otherwise, you have two very different purposes and distinct techniques that don't quite work as well together as they could. So for sighting for in the pool, there are certainly drills. You can put a water bottle at the end of the pool to make sure you see that whenever you sight. You could position yourself in front of the clock, and you could check the time each time you sight just to make sure you're seeing that. But simply, I would sight as often as possible in the pool, primarily during time trials and even your main sets. The times when you want to swim the fastest, make it realistic to how you actually will swim in the open water, the skills and tactics you'll have to employ in the open water. All right, what other questions? Craig, do you have any other good ones here?
So I think Dean has a good one. We've talked about this a bunch. I shouldn't swim alone, but I will be as I leave across from. He lives across the beach, so when he goes, it's pretty empty and his family's asleep. So what would you recommend? I have a few recommendations, but I'll let you chime in there because I think he knows what I've told him.
Yeah, I definitely swam alone myself. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend you guys to ever swim alone, period, for a number of reasons. I mean, you just never know what could happen. But don't even let yourself get to that point of, what could happen? Like, you want your mind to always be in a very comfortable, confident place in the open water. No chance of those very, very costly distractions. So, I'm not sure where you live. I think Dean was your name. Try and find a swim buddy. At the very, very worst case scenario, make sure you have someone on the beach watching you. That's like the worst case scenario. Your only measure you have someone with eyes on you the entire time. I've seen Craig do that, and it's totally fun. I think normally you've got a buddy you get out there with. But do not swim alone. So for us here, I'm always saying go in front of an active lifeguard tower. Even take it a step further and tell the lifeguard, hey, I'm out there. I'm practicing for this. I'm going to be out there 15 minutes just so keep a casual eye on me. They will appreciate that. That's not dorky or uncool. That shows responsibility, and then you're training seriously with a purpose. So never swim alone. Not worth it for safety purposes. Buddy up, or worst case, have someone on shore watching you. If none of those are an option, I recommend against going the open one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. I would also. I never swim alone. If my swim buddies bail or if I don't have a spotter, I don't go. And even when I do have a spotter or swim buddy, I still swim parallel to shore in like chest to waist deep water because a lot of our beaches don't have lifeguards until like halfway through the summer. And even then, I mean, my dad's been walking and the lifeguard comes up and is like, "Oh, what's going on there?" And they're like, if he drown, if something happens, we can't get to him. Like, and I'm not swimming that far out, maybe 50 yards. So the California lifeguards are a bit more trained than some of the Massachusetts ones. So I never recommend swimming alone. And even when you do swim with a buddy, I like to stay pretty close to land, because if you have an issue, you can just stand up and walk out or it's very easy for your spotter, who may not be a swimmer, to run in and get you, versus if you're 100 yards offshore, bad things can happen. Not saying they will, but they can. So I just wanted to reemphasize that that's not a good idea, and it's highly ill-advised.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. No, thanks for reinforcing that. Anyone want to do like a face-to-face question? You guys want to turn on your microphone and ask me a question face-to-face, like we're in person? Any other good questions? Burning questions?
I feel like Sam has a question.
Sam looks pensive.
I know. I was like, she's thinking hard. I don't know. Someone's got to have a question.
No, that's just how I look during meetings.
No, I don't need to point you out, Sam, or actually Craig did.
All right, so I'm going to put someone on this. So we have Patrick here, who is he's what's your thing, Pat? What's the category? You're muted.
Hold on.
There you go. You're good now.
I don't know. I just say paratri.
Yeah, so he's paratri. So he has limitations where he's got to swim on his back, and he requires someone to swim with him, like on a tether, to do sighting. So for a situation like that, what would be like a recommendation for training? What would be some of your recommendations? Say, for example, with like surf, or in some of the conditions that like we may encounter.
Yeah. Hey, Pat. Welcome. Hey, it's awesome to have you in this group. I'd love to work with you at some point in the ocean in Boston. We have several paratriathletes here. We have a couple blind triathletes that I guess are under the same division. And what we do with those guys is we have the same sort of buddy system. We call them swim angels. You can call them whatever you want, of course. But the blind athletes that we work with, they're on tether with their their guide, rather, is the term I believe they use. So I would do the same. I would find that person that you trust, you feel comfortable with, that you can get out there with side by side, and I would train under their guys. So if they can help you navigate the conditions that day, that's highly effective. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, what else can I answer for you there?
I have a side question, and you may know I am the only disabled athlete I know that swims. So what I've been using with Greg and my mom, I just bought a 20-foot dog leash, and that's what we use as a tether. Do you, working with other athletes, do you maybe have other, because I know we've all brainstormed, and that's the best we've come up with.
As far as in a pool, is that what you're asking?
In the ocean. So in the pool, I swim alone. I'll go to the Y alone and do 1,000, 2,000. Open water, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as a tether goes, I recommend looking up swim, run, tether. So the sport of swim, run, at one point you were required to have a tether. It's a partner race, and you have to have a tether that is, I think, up to like 6 to 8 feet between you and the partner. They don't require that anymore, but initially that was required for safety purposes in all these gnarly waters in Europe where it's foggy, it's big swell. So they make bungee tethers that are meant for the sport of swim run. So you can actually buy one packaged ready to go. I think the brand Orca might make those. They make the swim run suits, I know for sure. There's several brands in Europe making swim run specific stuff. I would just do a quick Google search. I guarantee you can find one that's meant for that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What else, guys? One more question, Craig? What do you think?
If no one has any, I don't know. They seem like that you've answered everything. So everything they need to. They're open water pros, and I have very high expectations for our first day in a few weeks when the water hits like 52.
That's awesome.
Who's scared? Who's not going to come with me when it's 52 degrees?
Show of hands. Who will be there when it's 52 degrees. Like, who's like, I might be there myself. Who's coming up? All right, we got a couple. I see 2.
It's already warmer than that in Boston now. So
Oh, okay.
it was like
Sounds
57 the other day.
easy.
Chill
Oh,
now.
man. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, guys, check us out so you can get more information. onewiththeocean.org is the website. My Instagram is The Swim Mechanic. And reach out and we can chat. Craig and I work together very closely with other athletes, and we talk shop all the time. We have a trusted network, if you will. So if you just want to chat swimming, I'm happy to talk with you guys. Craig and I can do this more often. In fact, maybe we can host one with some of my people on here. I just saw that Craig left on the call.
No, I'm still here. It was the fake Craig. I don't know who
Hey,
it
Craig.
was.
Fake Craig always does that, man.
I hate fake Craig.
But it's great to meet you guys virtually. I'm excited to be out there. Hopefully, first, second week of June, it's going to be a big celebration. I think we'll have a lot of new energy into the program, with the cleanup being one of the newest additions to help give back. Spread the word. Again, check us out online. Reach out to us. Craig, any last leaving thoughts?
No, just want to thank you for your time, and hopefully we will all be training together in a few short weeks. Found Brian's talk very helpful. His tips are great. Like you said, we've been in communication for a while, and our business relationship has gotten closer. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to bring a lot of new, fresh ideas to the team, which is exciting for you guys, having new perspectives and new people in and out. And I'm just really excited. So I hope you guys found it helpful, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
I hope you enjoyed that talk. It was really informative for myself and a lot of my swimmers. We had some great questions. So thank you to everyone who came. Thank you for watching to the end if you're not watching live. And a big thank you and shout out to Brian. Please check out his website, theswimmechanic.com, if you're looking for some good coaching and you're in the California area. And also check out, more importantly, the onewiththeocean.org website, which is all about the One With The Ocean group. If you're in any of those locations, I highly, highly, highly recommend you drop in. The site leaders are great no matter where you go. Brian's put together a great group of people to give you the best training. Like I said, when I'm in California, I'm always at one of his groups, either in La Jolla or in Encinitas. So I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. It doesn't matter your ability. They'll work with you and make sure you have a really great time. So thanks again for joining. You can come back, visit our site for more speaker series, liquidtri.com, liquidtri.com. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.